people say we couldn't possibly be a carnivore or a predator, none of this and none of that. Well, I have never seen a cave painting of cavemen diving at woolly mammoths with their mouths open. I see them standing around the mammoth with sharp, pointy sticks.
Hey guys, today our guest is Bart Kay. Bart is an expert on human nutrition, exercise and physiology. He also has 3 advanced degrees, 2 in exercise and physiology, 1 in the area of cardiovascular pathophysiology. He has published a number of peer-reviewed articles as well as book chapters. He has worked with many organizations like New Zealand Rugby teams and also with a couple of military organizations in Australasia like Australian Defence Force and with many more to improve their preparedness and performance. I'm very happy to welcome Bart Kay to the show. Thanks, Bart, for coming to the show.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the invite. I really do appreciate it. It always excites me to be able to talk to people and give them some ideas about the truth around physiology and health and nutrition and all of those kind of things. So let's get into it.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, before we go into the first question, can you share where can people connect with you?
Yeah, up until very recently, I was very active on YouTube. I still have a YouTube channel which still exists. However, most of my stuff is now gone from there. I've kind of abandoned the YouTube platform due to YouTube's current behavior around censorship and being the arbiters of, making themselves out to be something they're not, I guess. So currently I am hosted on Odyssey, Odyssee, and actually down there's a link that people will be able to punch in to find my channel there. Or if you just go to the Odyssey system, Odyssee, and you just do a search for me by name, there it is, it'll come up. You'll find me, no challenge at all. And there are sort of about 600 or more videos there that I've put together over the last couple of years. All sorts of different styles. I actually play a number of different characters in the videos as well, you might have noticed. Fair warning, some of those videos will contain very short, very descriptive words. I'm quite passionate and I've been known to say exactly what's on my mind without too much filtering from time to time. So just so you know, that is there, but the information is still good stuff. So that's where I am, Odyssey.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, my first question is that many health experts nowadays are recommending a balanced diet. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, that whole idea, it's an idea I was taught from before I can remember. I'm sure that's true for you as well. You're a bit younger than I am, obviously. And even my parents' generation. So my mother is now in her mid-70s. So that's a big dead giveaway as to my sort of age. She was taught the same thing, and that is that a balanced diet is a good, healthy diet. And that actually is the most incredible, most successful piece of spin doctory that you'll ever see anywhere, I think, in nutritional, what I call nutritional pseudoscience. We are not designed as a species for balance. The word balance is seen to be equated with goodness and light and justice and fair play, and it's a positive thing. So of course we should have a balanced diet. We should seek nutrition from all sorts of different sources. That way we'll get everything and we'll be missing out on nothing. That's the concept. That's what we're very successfully taught. That's what we all believe, until you look at the actual science. And the science is this: like any other animal you can name, the human beings, the human species has evolved in a set niche. We are specialists like every other animal. It turns out that for the last 350,000 years, give or take the last few thousand years, and more specifically, give or take the last 150 years most specifically. But for the vast majority of that 350,000 years, human beings have eaten the flesh and associated fat of animals almost exclusively. Human beings consumed almost no plant material at all during that time. How do I know that? Well, the first and foremost piece of actual science we can go to, the absolute slam dunk here, is that you go to the skeletal remains of human beings that have been discovered from 20,000 years ago, from 50,000, from 100,000, from 250,000. Doesn't matter. They do what's called an N14, N15 isotope test on those skeletal remains. What that does is tells the scientist what the balance between nitrogen 14 and nitrogen 15 is in the collagen that remains in those bones. The more nitrogen 15 that is in there, the more meat and obviously therefore associated fat that animal ate or that person ate, and the more nitrogen 14, the more plant-based that animal was in its diet. Anyway, it turns out human beings are obligate hyper-carnivores. In other words, the vast, and I'm talking more than 90% of our calories came from animal sources for our entire existence as a species, up until when we started growing wheat about, 5,000 years ago. And then you look at the Egyptians and you see their dental health fell to bits. Egyptians were obese. They were unhealthy. They had atherosclerosis. They died young because they were eating wheat. It was killing them. And then you look at more modern societies and we're told, balance and healthy whole grains and all this kind of nonsense, ignoring the slam dunk that says this is what we did eat. No guesswork. The isotope testing is actual science. It goes, that's what we ate. And it was meat and fat. So that's the first thing. The second thing that backs me up is that all our organ systems are all designed towards the consumption of meat and not plant material. We do not have a requirement for dietary fiber. We have an almost zero requirement for vitamin C, so long as you don't eat any carbohydrates. As soon as you eat carbohydrates, your need for vitamin C goes up. We have anecdotes by the thousands and thousands of people who we have been following, and we've got a couple of examples, 3 or 4 examples of individuals who have eaten nothing but animal flesh and animal fat for, in some cases, more than 2 decades, 20-something years. No scurvy, no heart attacks, no obesity, no lack of energy, no nutritional deficiencies, health like you wouldn't believe, digestive function like you wouldn't believe, bowel function like you wouldn't believe, perfect health. It's almost as if humans are designed to eat meat. Oh, whoops, we are, as per the nitrogen 15 testing. So that's basically it. Balance is a word that we equate with goodness and light, but balance is not required in human nutrition. What humans need to do is consume a diet that is appropriate and species specific, and that is meat and animal fat. There you go. Long-winded answer, I know, but there it is.
Thank you, Bart, for explaining clearly. But many people base their health advice on epidemiology. Like, why do you think that's a bad idea?
Well, epidemiology is a branch of pseudoscience. Epidemiology is a pretender. Epidemiology claims to be a branch of science. It isn't. Here are the problems with epidemiology. Epidemiology is a branch of study that looks to correlate this with that. Example, the incidence of people being attacked by sharks at the beach is highly correlated with the sales of ice cream by ice cream vendors at the beach. The more ice creams that are sold at the beach, the more people are attacked by sharks. That's epidemiology in a nutshell. Okay, so what we can suggest from that is this. If we want to prevent shark attacks, which is obviously a great thing, we don't want people being eaten by sharks. Clearly, what we must now do then is ban the sale of ice cream. Do you see how ridiculous that is? Most people don't. They go, oh, look, numbers and mathematics and science that we don't understand. Therefore, we will go, oh, this is science, because epidemiologists do all this math and say, look, so that's problem one. Epidemiology cannot inform us on causality. It can only say this and that are correlated. They are coincident. They happen at the same time. Saturated fat and heart disease. Okay. As it turns out, actually, just on that one, when you look at the epidemiology, it doesn't even show that there is a coincidence between those two factors, let alone a cause. If you look at meat and cancer, no coincident, no meaningful linkage there at all, let alone causal. It's not even a coincidence. There is no correlation, is what I'm saying. So that's problem one. It's looking at this and that. It does not get at cause. Okay, it's not cause and effect. It's coincidence. Shark attacks and ice cream. The second thing is epidemiologists use a language of relative, what they call risk. And again, risk is a completely inappropriate word for epidemiologists to use, because risk infers mechanism, and mechanism infers causality. And that's not what they're doing. They're just looking at coincidence. So they should say incidence rate, not risk. But they use the word risk because that way they can scare you into seeing their work as valuable, funding their further research, and giving them promotion in the academic area. And you know, these are people that are serving mankind, of course. No, they're not. Okay, so relative risk. Here's an example. If I have two populations of people, one of them is 1 million people. I have a matched pair of another 1 million people. So I have 2 million total subjects, 1 million over here and 1 million over here. These ones eat saturated fat. These ones don't. Everything else is completely controlled. There are no other differences between those two populations. Ridiculous, because that's impossible to achieve. But let's say we did our best and we got close. Okay. Let's say over here on the non-fat eaters, one of those 1 million people died of a heart attack during my study period. Let's look over here at the meat-eating, fat-eating bigots over here. Those people that don't care about the environment. That's for another day, though. Let's say 2 of those people died of a heart attack during my study period. I'm now going to write an academic epidemiology study that I'm going to send off to the journals for publication, and it's going to say, if you eat saturated fat, your risk, because it's causal, of course, your risk of heart disease is increased by 100%, is what I'm going to say. That's a huge, huge result. Everybody should be frightened and stop eating meat immediately. No, you didn't get 100% change in risk. 1 in 1 million versus 2 in 1 million. Well, that's a change of 1 in 1 million, isn't it? Not 100%. But do the epidemiologists talk about their absolute change and the different? No, you bet. Do you know why they don't? Because they never find anything that's worth anything to any given individual over a 100-year lifespan. Because the differences between the groups are so small that they're never going to show anything. So that's problem 2 with epidemiology. Problem 3 with epidemiology is this. They tell lies. What they do is they collect data about their subjects and the outcome that they're looking at. Let's say it's saturated fat and heart disease. And they get all these numbers together and go, here's how many heart attacks we had over here. Here's how many heart attacks we had over here. Now here's what we're going to do. Because we didn't use scientific discipline, we didn't control our populations properly because they're not well matched, we're going to make adjustments to our outcome data. Now, in science, here's what we do. We design the thing properly, we use discipline, we control it properly, we allow one thing to vary and one thing only, the thing that we're interested in, we make observations on that thing, and then we report what we saw. That's science. Epidemiology is, don't bother about applying any discipline, don't control anything at all, just collect some raw data, get it together, and then throw that data in the bin and make up some other data and report on that as if that's what we saw, when that's not what we saw. It's called fabrication. It's academic misconduct of the highest order. It should be illegal. These people shouldn't be lauded as scientists. They should be thrown in prison. It's disgraceful. So, epidemiology? No thanks. I'd rather stick to the science.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you for clearly explaining. But how can a layman can get the real information?
How do you get real information? Well, you stick around my very fine channel, because while I might use short descriptive language, while I might be passionate, while I might be dismissive at times, I will tell you the truth, because I have no axe to grind. I have no vested interest other than my care for you as a fellow human being, my desire that you don't suffer, my desire that you don't shorten your life or have an unhappy life in the meantime. But other than that, okay, sure. I mean, I am available to consult with people one-on-one who want my help. So I might make some money that way by you going to my Patreon, which is Bart_Kay, by the way, if you want to get some one-on-one assistance, anybody, I'm more than happy to help with that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just here to tell you the truth, because I believe it's the right thing to do. And I believe that with my level of training and experience in science, publication history in science, my sort of qualifications and things, now that I'm retired from being an academic, that leaves me at a loose end. It leaves me with something to do to fill in my days. So helping people in that way is what I've chosen to do. And also I feel like it's a good way of using my skills and experience beyond the point that I've finished in the professional area of academia. I quit academia basically because they didn't want me to tell the truth, by the way. So, there you go.
Thank you, Bart. But many people say that humans are herbivores based on our teeth structure. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh dear, that's a classic one. That I love that one. It makes me laugh every time. Here's the thing. Changes to the physical structures of any animal occur because of positive natural selection pressures or negative natural selection pressures. Okay. So you'll see these people running around saying, "Oh, we can't possibly be carnivores because we don't have sharp, pointy teeth like this," to use the Monty Python way of describing things. Well, we don't need sharp, pointy teeth like this because we've got these things, and we've got one of these, and we've got one of those. We can think. We can communicate with each other. We have language. We can work together to take down a mammoth. We can force it over a cliff. We can poke it with sharp, pointy sticks, our substitute teeth. People say we couldn't possibly be a carnivore or a predator, none of this and none of that. Well, I have never seen a cave painting of cavemen diving at woolly mammoths with their mouths open. I see them standing around the mammoth with sharp, pointy sticks. So what on earth do we want that or that for? That would just get in the way of what we do with these, and that actually would get in the way with the communication. So there's no positive selection pressure. Also, every time I sit down for a meal these days, I have a metal fork and a metal knife, and that works really well. It's awesome. Don't need those things at all. Our teeth are the shape they are because before our current speciation, Well, actually, well before our current speciation. Sort of, we're talking maybe 4.5, 5 million years evolution-wise. We absolutely were herbivores back then. That's why we have the teeth of a herbivore. But over the last 5 million years or so, we have become, and most notably in the last 350,000, we have become Homo sapiens sapiens. We are meat eaters. That's what we do. The nitrogen 15, nitrogen 14 test back that up, slam dunk. It's not even questionable anymore. The science is settled is another way of putting that. People like to use that term, don't they? The science is settled. Well, there it is. That's what we eat. And our teeth are the shape they are because there was no reason for them to change. Our herbivore teeth chew up meat just as effectively. There you go. Simple.
Thank you, Bart. But many people think that meat is indigestible and rots in the colon. What are your thoughts on that?
That's another one that makes me laugh uproariously every time I hear it. Ha ha ha, I say. Here's why. Meat and fat is almost entirely broken down to constituent amino acids and constituent-free fatty acids in the stomach, actually, via stomach acid, and almost entirely absorbed in the small intestine, the small, the longer of our two digestive tracts, the skinnier one, the longer one, the small intestine. Yeah, that's its role. Its role is to absorb meat and fat once broken down in the stomach. If you eat a diet which is almost entirely meat and fat, what you will actually find, if those of you that haven't tried it, this is something you've got to look forward to, you will find that the volume and frequency of your bowel movements will both go down amazingly. There's almost no waste because you absorb basically all of it pretty much. The huge volume of excrement that human beings are passing every day is that portion of the plant material that you cannot digest, i.e. almost all of it. So that's what's going on with that. And it's a crazy thing to say that meat will sit in your gut and rot. It does absolutely nothing of the sort. In actual fact, rotting, that the process of something rotting is it being broken down by bacteria. That's what rotting is. Now, actually in your large colon, the shorter, the less voluminous of your two parts of your digestive tract there, any amount of indigestible fibrous plant-like material that you ate in the last several days will be sitting in there. And in there's a bunch of bacteria that'll be breaking that stuff down. You'll be able to get a little bit of a very small amount of nutrition out of that in the form of actually 100% saturated, by the way, short-chain fatty acids. Tee, that's a laugh, isn't it? So what I'm telling you is that plant and fiber material in your large colon, that's rotting. That's what's happening in there. The small intestine has almost no bacteria in it whatsoever because it is so acidic. So these people that say meat rots in your gut, don't be ridiculous. Meat never makes it to your large colon. It's been all absorbed in the short colon. The stuff that's in your large colon is the plant material that is rotting. Funny.
Thank you, Bart. But many health experts nowadays are suggesting to maintain an alkaline body, and they are suggesting to drink alkaline water. What are your thoughts on that?
That's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. It's ridiculous. Here's why. There are 4 and only 4 control variables that can be exerted on any aqueous, meaning water, solution chemically. These are the laws of the universe. These are the laws of physics we're talking about here. You have to change one of these 4 things to get your pH to change. You have to change the temperature of that fluid. The hotter it is, the more acidic it is. The cooler it is, the less acidic it is. That'll have almost no effect on pH over the range 0 degrees C to 100 degrees C. It might be like 7.5 to 6.5, which is a 10 times change in the amount of free hydrogen ion in the water. However, you know how we talked about absolute and relative earlier? Same thing applies here, because at a pH of 7.4, there are 4 free hydrogen ions per 100 million molecules of water. That's what pH 7.4 means. When the pH is 6.8, there's a 4 times change, a 400% change in the acidity, all the way to 16. So from 4 per 100 million to 16 per 100 million, which is a massive 400% change, until you realize it's in the context of 100 million other molecules. So it means there's no difference. Okay, so temperature, yes, it'll have an effect, but not meaningful. The other thing that will change the pH of any solution is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide gas dissolved in it. So how do you become more acidic? Do some exercise, your muscles will produce carbon dioxide, that will end up in your blood, that will make your blood become more acidic. Okay, again, human beings' body range pH of the blood is 7.4 at rest, I should say, and 6.8 at the point of volitional metabolic exhaustion at the end of a completely exhausting exercise protocol, like a ramp test where they speed you up until you absolutely cannot continue. So again, there's no real difference in your pH during the range of rest through to absolute exhaustion. 400%, absolutely, but difference between 4 in 100 million and 16 in 100 million, nothing to speak of. So temperature, carbon dioxide gas, acid anions, metabolic acids, for example, mostly it's albumin and globulins. It's proteins that have a bunch of negative electrochemical charges on the surface of the convoluted, folded up protein structure. So if you have more albumin in your blood, number one, that actually brings more fluid in, because that's the reason you have albumin in your blood. It's an oncotic sponge to hold water in your central pool so that you don't bleed out into your tissues. But secondly, that'll make you more acidic as well, because those negative charges will draw positive charges out of the water. Basically how that works. So albumin and globulins, okay, good. Also phosphates, creatine, all those other things that have negative electrochemical. Fine. The final one is strongly dissociated ionic substances such as sodium, potassium, chloride, lactate is another one, those kind of things. So you do exercise, you produce carbon dioxide, that makes you more acidic. Your muscles also produce lactate when you exercise, that makes you more acidic. Turns out the acidity is positive indicated and helps your body to cope with the exercise, and it's not the cause of fatigue that many exercise physiologists will say that it is. When you think about it, the point at which you are most metabolically active, your highest exercise intensity, that point just before you're absolutely caved in that test I was talking about, that's the point in time that's associated with the highest acidity. So if association is causality, then surely we should have got that one a long time ago. Whoops, acidity is good and not bad. Anyway, that's for another day as well. So those are the 4 things that you need to change in order to change your body pH. Here's the thing though, your body has the pH it has because it wants to have that pH. Anytime your pH starts to drift away from where it should be, your kidneys will either pump those ions in or out of your bloodstream to counteract the change that is happening. It's to keep your pH stable and what it should be. The only time a human being is going to experience any meaningful deviation in their pH at all is when they are critically ill, in the few minutes before they die, because they will die at that point. Your body pH is absolutely controlled by your body. Don't worry about it, basically.
Thank you, Bart. But why do vegan diets still work for some people?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. It's one I get pretty often, and the answer to it is really simple. The worst possible diet for any human being is the standard Western or standard American diet. The mixed diet, the balanced diet, the one that contains a large amount of both carbohydrates and fats of any kind, actually. People who are eating a standard diet, a mixed diet, a balanced diet, are, in general, obese, diabetic, riddled with heart disease, strokes, dementia if they live that long, and cancers if they live that long. All of those diseases of Western society, they're all the big 4 or 5 major killers of people. All of them are traceable to mixing your diet, carbohydrates and fats. It's to do with the influence of part of your metabolism called the Randall cycle, which means if you have both carbohydrates and fats, you will be chronically systemically inflamed. And being chronically systemically inflamed is the root cause of all those diseases: obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, cerebrovascular accidents, all that stuff. Okay. So when a person switches to veganity, which I refer to as the Holy Church of Anorexia Vegana, because it really is. Actually, veganism is starvation in terms of nutrient. And as such, vegans tend to consume almost no fat to speak of. And because they're not mixing fat and carbohydrates, that alleviates the Randall cycle. So for 2, 3, 4, probably 5 years in some cases, these people will actually feel great. They'll feel the best they've felt their entire lives. They'll tell you how healthy they are. They'll tell you how much more energy they've got. They'll tell you how much weight they've lost on their vegan diet. They'll sing its praises for about 5 years. When we get into year 6, if they last that long, year 7, very few vegans last any much more than 7 or 8 years, because their health disastrously abandons them. Why? Because they've had no nutrient at all in their 5, 6, 7 year odyssey as a vegan. All this, vegan food is the most nutritious in the world. It contains all these nutrients. Great. You can't get them. The plants don't want you to have those nutrients, of course. Why would they? A plant can't run away from you, hide under a rock, fly away, dive into a pond, or swim away, or whatever. So a plant has to be poisonous. And they are. All of them. Plants are not your friend. Plants are not here to subserve your need for nutrition. Vegans seem to think that just because there's nutrient in the plant, it's accessible to you as a human being. It's not. Your organ systems are not designed to cope with poison. They are designed to cope with digesting meat and fat, as we've discussed very clearly. And that's what you should do. So, 5, 6, 7 years, health, disaster, falling to bits, collagen dissolving, eyes falling back into the back of their skulls, skeletal structures actually narrowing in, face becoming narrower, no breadth across the shoulders in the men, no upper body strength, no lower body strength, except for those ones that come online and tell you about how big and strong they are. Those ones that take steroids, those ones. Yeah, it's crazy. So that's where the power in veganism is. Its power is that it is more healthy than what most people have been eating their whole life up to that point. So as I say, it'll work for 5 years and then you will suffer and your health will fall to bits. And then you'll go, I've got to eat some meat. And then you'll come back to meat. If you've got any ability to learn, by that stage you will have learned, yes, I need to eat meat and animal fat, but I also need to avoid plants as well. That's the bit that people miss. They go back to the standard diet again and they don't, oh, I'm not getting any better. Well, I wonder why, because you're still not eating a species-appropriate, species-specific diet for human beings, which is meat and fat. The other thing that veganism has got going for it is an incredibly organized, incredibly persuasive bunch of criminals, charlatans, and false prophets who will run around and tell you that it's healthy and good for you, and you should do this. Most of them hold medical degrees, which qualify them, by the way, to speak about nutrition. Not at all. A medical doctor is trained in the differential diagnosis of pathology and intervention to that by means of the allopathic methodology of prescribing drugs, poisonous drugs usually, which manage symptoms and not diseases, or surgery, or both. Doctors receive no training in nutrition whatever in their medical degree. Or if they do, it's like an 8-hour module. Ooh. Yes. No, don't listen to doctors about nutrition. They have no idea, especially those that say veganism is good for you, because it's not. So there you go.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, can you explain about glycerol fatty acid cycle?
Glycerol fatty acid cycle is ostensibly another term for the Randall cycle to which I was referring earlier. Okay, what it does in effect is that it means that your body is able to use fat or carbohydrate as its primary energy source, whichever of those predominates, and it will do that up to and including the point where your entire macronutrient requirement for the day has been met without a problem. You can mix them up. You can have carbs and you can have fat in your diet so long as you never eat 1 calorie more, or 1 effective calorie more than you effectively spend. The moment you go over and you have a large amount of both sugar and fat in your bloodstream, that will activate the Randall cycle. And what happens is both those nutrients become blocked out. They cross-inhibit each other. When you think about it in nature, you think about foods. If you are a carnivore, which you are if you're a human being, make no mistake, you are an obligate hyper-carnivore, whether you like that or not. That is your biological design, that is your genetic gift, that is what you are. Then your food contains a lot of protein and a lot of fat. That's the natural mix of things. That's what your body will run on. Protein to build your body, your structures, your proteins, fat for energy. Cool. If you were a herbivore, which you are not, by the way, let's say you're a horse. A horse is largely herbivorous, just for one example of a herbivore. The horse's food contains a lot of carbohydrate, some protein, but almost no fat. Right? So the horse will use the protein in the plant to build its body structures. Well, actually, the interesting one on that, we'll get back to that one. And they will use the carbohydrate in the plant for energy. Not so much fat. You take a human being and you feed them carbohydrate and fat, that's not a natural mix of things. It's only human-designed foods, human-designed nutrition ideas like balance is good, okay? They're the kind of ideas that lead you to do the wrong thing and mix carbohydrate and fat together in your diet. That activates the Randall cycle, or the glycerol fatty acid cycle, if you like. So both nutrients are both locked out, so they build up and up in your blood, so they have to be stored as fat, so you're going to get obese. But while you're getting obese because you have to store all this energy because you can't use it, also your cells are now getting short of resources because everything's locked out, which increases your amount of phosphate ions in your cells. And phosphate ions, when they bind to pro-inflammatory cytokines, set off a storm of systemic inflammation, and it's that causes the type 2 diabetes, the heart disease, the cancers, and the dementias. Not a good idea. So eat the way nature intended, or Mother Nature intended, or God intended. Doesn't matter what you believe. Any of those things, it makes no difference to the facts. And the facts are, the science is settled. N14, N15 isotope testing tells us we should eat meat and fat, and horses should eat grass. The thing I was going to get back to, horses, cows, etc. Most notably cows. I'll give you the best example. People think that cows derive their nutrition from grass, don't they? You say, what does a cow eat? Well, a cow eats grass. Okay, so a cow builds this huge, strong, muscular body with massive bones and all of that out of grass, does it? Yes, people will tell you. No, it doesn't. The cow has 4 chambers in its stomach. The first 3 chambers are fermentation chambers, where all the grass it's eaten and chewed up sit in its gut and rot, and the bacteria release some short-chain fatty acids from fermenting that grass, which, by the way, are all 100% saturated, those short-chain fatty acids, even though saturated fat's bad. Gorillas, you know, when you look at a gorilla's diet, it's something like 90% saturated fat when you actually work out what the gorilla is doing to it, because of the large cecum, the fermentation chambers, all that. Anyway, back to cows before I get completely off track. The 4th chamber, here's what happens. The cow pours acid all over the bacteria passing into the 4th chamber that have been living in the first 3 chambers, and digests those, the bacteria. That's where the cow gets its nutrition from. Bacteria, not grass. That's why most of the grass that the cow chewed up gets out the other end in small round patties on the ground afterwards. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So even herbivores aren't. They live on bacteria because nobody can digest plants except bacteria. There you go.
Thank you, Bart. But nowadays, many people are consuming microgreens like wheatgrass juice, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a marketing ploy. It's another very successful marketing ploy. There are people making money out of all sorts of crazy pills and potions, the absolute thing that you must have, including myself. I sell one as well, and mine actually works and does what it says it does, and it's not nutritional. It's a different thing altogether. There is no need for that. There is no place in the human diet for any significant amount of plant material of any kind. Human beings, for our entire history of 350,000 years, have used various plants and extracts of various plants for medicinal purpose, as indicated from time to time in very small amounts. That is the only thing that we should be using plant material for. It's not nutrition. It's not good for us. We don't need it. There is nothing in plants that a human being requires that you cannot source perfectly adequate amounts of by eating meat. And in fact, most plants you cannot derive nutrition from because they're locked out. The term that most scientists use for this, for the reason for that in plants, is they call it anti-nutrients. Have you heard that term? Anti-nutrients in plants. The correct term to use scientifically is not anti-nutrient. It's toxin. It's poison. The plant locks you out. Why? Because it wants to discourage you from eating it. It's going to make you sickly. It's going to turn you into a soy boy. It's going to remove your masculinity. It's going to remove your fertility so that there's not another generation running around trying to eat it. If the vegans weren't doing that to themselves anyway, but that's another story. Yeah, that's how all of that works. So yeah, none of it. It's just nonsense. All of that stuff. You don't need wheatgrass. You don't need the absolute latest seaweed invention that you have to drink to. No, Everything you need nutritionally is in the meat of animals and associated animal fat. A lot of people say you must eat organs as well. Nonsense. You can if you like. It's not a problem. Some people like to eat organs. Some people say, oh, well, make sure I definitely get everything I need. Sure. But also you absolutely definitely will get everything you need if you base your diet on the muscle meat of ruminant animals, because it's all there. Why would you need to go? I don't like eating organs. I don't like liver. Some people love it. Some people think it's great. Some people like to eat brains and eyeballs and goodness knows what. Good luck to them. Nothing wrong with doing that, but you don't need to. Yeah.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, what are your thoughts on soybean? Soy.
Soy is one of the most problematic, one of the most toxic, one of the most absolutely contraindicated things that a human being could possibly put into their body. There is no place for soy in the human diet, given that it's a plant-based thing, and soy is derived from a part of the plant which is one of the most toxic parts of the plant. It contains all sorts of anti-nutrients, read toxins. It also has an amount of phytoestrogenic substance in it. Now, where you fall on that spectrum as to whether you believe phytoestrogens are a problem or not doesn't actually matter with soy, because of the other toxins that soy definitely does have in it that definitely are a problem, like lectins, like tannic acids, like oxalate. Those are enough to go, not food immediately. So you don't even need to go to phytoestrogens. You can if you want. If you need another reason not to eat soy, I only need one, and that is that soy didn't have arms and legs or fins or feathers. It didn't have a mother and a father. It wasn't an animal at any stage in its life. Therefore, it is not nutrition for a human being. Easy when you keep it simple.
Thank you, Bart. But people like David Sinclair are saying that plant proteins are better than animal protein. So what are your thoughts on that?
He's wrong. Completely wrong. Not even maybe. Here's the thing. Ever heard of rabbit starvation? The term rabbit starvation? Yeah. When you consume a diet that is high in carbohydrate and low in fat, even if you have good quality protein, which, make no mistake, plant protein is not, you're still going to fade away. So if I ate nothing but lean beef and cut all the fat off it and didn't add any butter and never had any lard or any tallow or any ghee or any of that, just the meat, even worse, let's say I lived on fish or lean poultry as well, so there's almost no fat in my diet, but I'm still eating high quality animal protein, I am still going to fade away and melt away, and eventually I'm going to die, because human beings absolutely require animal saturated fat for survival. That's why the vegans, after 5 to 7 years, are falling to pieces. That's why their health falls to pieces. That's why they have to stop and go back to eating animal products, because they have not met their nutritional requirement for animal fat and all the fat soluble vitamins and things that animal fat contains that plants do not. So you might say, oh, the quality of protein in this plant is better than animal protein, to which I'd say, well, you show me a plant that contains whole protein for human beings, that contains all the essential amino acids that we need to take in, and I'll be amazed, because there isn't one. Oh, yes, but if you combine your foods correctly and plan your vegan diet correctly, you'll get all the whole protein, all the amino acids you need. Sure. And you'll still fade away, and you'll still melt away, and your arms will still become like fingers in their robustitude, if you like, and your eyes will still sink into your skull, and your teeth will still fall out, and your jaw will still atrophy, and your very skull, your actual head, will become thinner across. You can see it in these vegans that have been doing it a few years. You look at them and you go, that's not the right shape for a human being. There's something really wrong here. I'll tell you what it is. No fat in the diet. Therefore, none of the associated factors that you find in animal fat. Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. You cannot get sufficient of any of those from a plant-based diet, irrespective of what these pseudo gurus will tell you. Oh yes, but pro-vitamin A, they'll say you can get that from carrots and stuff. Great. Do you know how many carrots you'd have to eat a day to get enough with the actual rate of conversion that humans are capable of? Forget it. You've got no room for anything else. You're full of carrots. And you still got to take care of vitamin D, E, and K. Well, where are you going to get those from? Because they're not in plants, any of them. No. Plant protein is not better than animal protein. Ridiculous.
Thank you, Bart. But many people are like commenting in my videos that animal protein drives IGF-1 and which drives mTOR, and that's why it is bad for us, like it causes cancer and everything. So yeah. Okay,
so this is one of the uses that you can use for epidemiology. Okay. How I said earlier, remember how I said earlier that epidemiology can never inform us on cause of phenomena. So you might now be thinking, well, what are you talking about? Now you want to invoke epidemiology. You can't have it both ways. Well, here it is. If there was some mechanism by which the consumption of large amounts of meat caused cancer to become more prevalent, then it would show up in an epidemiological study, wouldn't it? We would be able to go, so here are the 1 million people eating meat and here are the 1 million people not. These people had massively more cancer than these people, because that's what would happen. We don't need to see the mechanism. We just need to see, is that relationship occurring? Because if it is occurring, then we need to go and look for the mechanism and find out why. Here's the answer to the epidemiology on meat and cancer. There is no effect. The risk ratio for meat eaters versus non-meat eaters for cancer is 1.0, which means there is no difference in populations that we can statistically detect, even with tens of millions of person years of follow-up. Okay, so what we can say is it makes no difference if you eat a lot of meat to your risk in your life of developing cancer of any kind. End of argument. So, mTOR and IGF-1 and let's all get technical and blow smoke and mirrors and stuff. Well, no, let's go back and see if there is actually anything to worry about in the first place. The answer is no. So we don't need to know. I hope that's clear.
Thank you, Bart. But is too much protein damages kidneys?
Nope. Only if you have existing kidney disease will a highly protein-based diet be any kind of problem for you.
How to get out of it? Then how can they do that?
Basically, someone that has existing kidney disease should probably consult with someone like myself on how to resolve and deal with that. It's very much an individual case-by-case thing. It will involve eating a appropriate species-specific diet, which will mean that you'll be eating a large amount of animal saturated fat and a moderate amount of protein and no plant material whatsoever. You'll also be discouraged from taking coffee and alcohol and tea and a number of other things that people do as well, among other things. But it's a one-on-one discussion, that one, so I prefer to keep that one there in the consultancy in terms of that. If you have normally functioning kidneys, if you are healthy kidney-wise, then you can eat any amount of protein and it will not cause you a problem. Why would it?
Thank you, Bart. But many people think that our body can clear the plant toxins, for example, liver and everything. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, your body is able to cope with, to process, and to eliminate toxins. Absolutely. That doesn't mean you should pile them into your body. I mean, it just makes no sense. Now, with the way that much of the meat even that we consume in Western society is reared and produced, there are aspects of that I'm not happy with. For example, the overuse of antibiotics, especially in chicken, for example. That's probably the worst area of antibiotic abuse in animal husbandry. Various drenches and all sorts of things for various intestinal parasites that cows and things can get can be problematic. The vast overuse of Roundup around the place that ends up being ingested and concentrated a bit in the animals, that kind of stuff. And basically, you know, an overpopulated, overtoxic world in general. So these days, unfortunately, even animal foods are not perfect in respect to toxins. So our bodies are still being asked to deal with some toxins that even 5 and 6 generations ago, our forebears didn't have to deal with quite so much. However, that said, all of that is nothing compared to the vastly toxic, damaging load of any amount of plant toxins. Plant toxins, while most of them won't kill you stone dead, some of them will, by the way, but while most plant toxins will not kill you stone dead, make no mistake, they will kill you over 20, 30, 40 years. Slowly, painfully, agonizingly. It's all unnecessary. In my life prior to coming to this revelation, to understanding that animal-based nutrition is the way to go for human beings, I spent the first 35 to 40 years of my life in the worst health that I could imagine. I know there are people that have been worse than I ever was. I'm not suggesting that, but I had every digestive disorder you can imagine. We're talking diverticulitis, we're talking pancreatitis, we're talking appendicitis, we're talking gluten intolerance, celiac tendency, skin conditions, fibromyalgia that was so severe at one point that I was unable to get out of bed on most days for several years in the end. Crippling anxiety that would lead me to be agoraphobic for, at one point, I never left my house for a year at all. Depression, all sorts of mental health issues, you name it. It was horrible. And all of those things, all traceable to plant toxins. Pretty much within 3 or 4 months of getting those things out of my life, all those health conditions were also out of my life. Now, you might say, haha, there you go again. Association doesn't cause proof. Sure, fine. All I'm saying is my anecdote, my N=1, says I stopped eating plants and plant-based material of any kind to a 95% adherence, and it's resolved all my health issues. And there are thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people who are now in this burgeoning, growing area of online influencers like myself, who are creators, who have these channels, who have various qualifications, and some who don't as well, actually. But everybody is saying the same thing, and that is that this is the way to go. Sounds almost scientific, because that's what science is, really. It's the disciplined collection of anecdotes according to a set of rules. So, I'm happy that this is the way to go. And I'll keep doing it until someone can show me any reason why I shouldn't.
Thank you, Bart. But what do you think the role of stem cells in the future?
Right. So I presume we're talking adult stem cells rather than the embryonic kind. Yep. Okay. So for those that don't know, two different kinds of stem cells that have very different roles in the human body. An embryonic stem cell is the seed from which the human being develops originally, and those cells basically build every single cell of the human body, and that's how they work. And there are researchers using those in various aspects of medical science and stuff. I personally have a problem ethically with that, because the material that those scientists are using come from aborted human fetuses. You'll find them in that you'll get for the latest Wu flu, by the way. So anyone that wants an ethical reason, if you don't already understand that it's not a good idea to have that particular shot or any other vaccination to speak of, that's for another day. So I'm not talking about the embryonic stem cells at all. We kind of alluded earlier to me being involved in marketing a supplement. And I did say at the time, it's not a nutritional supplement. Now, I said that. The company that markets it does refer to it as a nutritional supplement, or a dietary supplement, they call it. Because the FDA in the States, where the company is based that makes this product, requires them to call their product a dietary supplement. So that's what they've got on there. As such, there are one or two things in it which are of some nutritional value, just serendipitously. For example, there's some vitamin A in the product, and there's some vitamin C in one of the products, and whatever. Not important to me. I'm not interested in that. I don't need any of those things because I get all those things from food, which is meat and animal fat. The thing that excites me about the product that I'm involved with is that this is a product which is a derivative or an extract from a particular species of blue-green cyanobacteria that lives in this one lake in North America. This particular substance causes your bone marrow to release your adult stem cells into your bloodstream. So embryonic stem cells formed your body in the first place when you were developing in your mother's womb. Not what we're talking about. One of the things that an adult stem cell becomes in your adult body is an adult stem cell. These are blank cells that have your DNA in them, and they live in your bone marrow, among other places. And they sit there and they wait for a message to be released into the blood. When they're released into the blood, they float around in the blood and they find tissues in need of renewal and repair and all that kind of stuff. And they do that work. They quash inflammation. They tone down, destroy, discourage cancer cells. They redress balances. They send out care packages of all sorts of things to various different cells and tissues around them. They fix things up. They are an ambulance crew, if you like. When the adult stem cell comes across a tissue that's so badly damaged, or a cell that is so badly damaged that it just needs to go and we need to replace it altogether, it will bind to that cell, differentiate into a cell of that kind, and replace that cell. And then the detritus is washed away for either recycling or for excretion, as the case may be. So these are cells that are capable of becoming anything in your body except sperm or eggs. So eyeball cells, heart cells, fingernail cells, hair follicle cells, I'm still waiting for that, It's not a priority for my body, obviously, whatever. What I'm saying is these cells are magic, and I have seen magic things occur. For example, I was diagnosed with advanced age-related macular degeneration when I was 38 years of age, 10 years ago. I was told that the specialist, who's the best specialist in New Zealand, the best eye specialist, told me he had never seen someone of my age with that disease that was that advanced. It must be genetic. He couldn't explain it. Probably all those plants I was eating, by the way. Who knows? He said, there is no hope. There is nothing known to medical science that will repair this. You will go blind, and probably within 5 years. Suck it up. $200, thanks, is what he said. About that time was when I discovered this particular product that I'm involved with. And I only came across it because I answered an advert for the company that was looking for someone to fly around Australasia on a 2-week turnaround to train their people on how to talk about this product and how to sell it and what to say and what not to say and stuff. At that time, I started taking the product. So this is 10 years ago. Anyway, long story short, 10 years later, I'm not blind. I'm not remotely blind. In fact, my eyesight is better than it was 10 years ago. Even my prescription for my prescription lenses is better than it was. Medical science looks like you got it wrong. There is something that can repair it. It's adult stem cells. So there you go. That's what I'm interested in that area. For those who are interested in that, it is a product that is available to people in something like 60 different countries and territories around the world currently. Unfortunately, at this time, India is not one of them. However, in future, who knows? And if you know somebody offshore that can order it for you and possibly send it to you, it might get to you. It might get stopped at customs. Who knows? We can't have any control over that. But if you are interested in learning more about that, if you go to what's left of my YouTube channel, if you do a search for me there under that name, you will find that YouTube channel. It will come, like if you punch my name into YouTube search, it'll be the first 10 pages of things that will come up will probably be me, so you'll find it. There are a number of videos on that channel which talk about this product in much more detail and how to get hold of me if you want to learn more about that and what to do and whether so you can find my email address there is also on my YouTube channel, so you can drop me an email personally if you want to. So there you go. That's stem cells and where we're going with that. Basically, they are capable of fixing pretty much any non-genetic disorder that you can imagine. So any cumulative injury, illness situation of any kind, pretty much, this particular product is potentially capable of having a positive impact on, if not completely a complete resolution. That's not a claim, by the way, a therapeutic claim. We're not allowed to make therapeutic claims because the American FDA won't let us. All we can say is, in theory, this is what this thing can do, and here are X number of anecdotes of people for whom it has done that. But that's where we have to stop on that one.
Thank you, Bart. But now we have 2 questions from subscribers. Yeah. So Paul is asking, can we heal our dental cavities?
Yes, I've done that myself. Yep. That's a 2-part protocol, I think, and both parts are equally important in my mind. First of all, if you want to heal dental cavities, you must stop eating carbohydrates, period. All of them. That means all plant material, basically. It has to go. Carbohydrates break down in the mouth to sugar. Sugar feeds the bacteria that dissolves our teeth. Don't feed them. And then your body can start to heal those cavities. In order to give your body the best chance and the most the best amount of resources to affect the repair on your teeth, in my opinion, you also need to rely on said product that I've been talking about, the stem cell releasing product as well. That's the two parts. So no carbohydrates at all, no plant material at all, and the stem cell enhancing product. There you go.
Thank you, Bart. But many people in my YouTube channel are commenting that they have issues with thyroid and PCOS. Like, how to treat them?
Thyroid issues, again, it's a very individual thing. There are many different reasons why someone's thyroid might not be responding as well as it should. Everything from Hashimoto's through to oxalate poisoning is another very common cause. Sometimes either insufficiency or indeed overplus of iodine. So I would really need to sit down with someone and talk to them one-on-one for an hour or so to really get to what probable root causes, which would then lead us to the right solution in terms of how to get them from that situation to a better situation. So again, people can access consultancy with myself one-on-one through my Patreon system, which is Patreon, I think it is, patreon.com/Bart_Kay. There you go. You can consult with me there on that one. In terms of PCOS, you have that one again is also an axis of hormonal imbalance, but also metabolic dysfunction as an end outcome of consuming, once again, carbohydrates are the problem, actually. So what I've found generally in clients with PCOS is the removal of all plant materials of all kinds seems to solve the problem 95% of the time without even worrying about messing around with hormones and whatever else. Because you take away the thing that's causing the problem and the body heals and resets itself to the state that it ought to be in. So, yeah, again, almost everything that is wrong in the world with people is down to chronic systemic inflammation as a function of eating plants. So stop doing it. There you go.
Thank you, Bart. But last question, would you like to issue a 7-day challenge to our subscribers?
Yes, everybody come and subscribe to me over here on Odyssey. Please, no, seriously. It's really, really important that creators like myself do get your support, because if we don't, then we will find other things to do with our time. It's not even like I'm asking you to put your hand in your pocket and you know, and support me directly financially. If you subscribe to my channel, on my Odyssey channel there, if you tip me with your library credits that they'll give you for free for joining the library system, everybody wins. And that bolsters my visibility, my public profile. It encourages me to continue doing what I'm doing and to get good information out to people, the truth out to people. You've all subscribed to this fantastic channel already, so you've already come to the realization that, whoops, we crazy carnivores have got some idea about what's going on here. So yeah, please do share me some of that love, share me some of that support. Come and subscribe. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like, such that whatever's left on there. And hey, if enough of you do, I might actually bring that YouTube channel back to life just to annoy YouTube, because they really don't like me at all, by the way. Anyone that tells the truth over there on YouTube, not popular. So that's part of the 7-day challenge. The other part that I would suggest to you is this. Over the next 7 days, if you are still consuming any amount of plant materials or plant-based things in your diet over the next 7 days, either cut it in half or get it gone. Because the sooner you get carnivore happening properly, fully, completely, the sooner you'll get the benefits. There seems to be a remarkable thing that occurs with people as soon as they get that into their heads and do it. A very small amount of plant material can have a very, very significant impact on your life and on your health. And you may not even realize it. You might just think that the way things are for you now is normal. A lot of people will come back a few months later and say, I didn't realize how unwell I was. I thought I was okay. Actually, when things are great and when you really do have full energy, full health, everything's going for you, you'll look back and you'll think, wow, I can't believe how bad things were just on a small amount of plant material. And if you're eating a lot of plant material still, I would still encourage you to get it halved. But one thing I do say to people is never just hammer over. Never just say, I'm going carnivore tomorrow and cut all the plants out that day, because your microbiome needs time to adjust to the different food that you're now going to be feeding it. And if you don't give it time to adjust, it will upset your system. You will have an upset stomach. You will have loose stool. You will have cramping and pain. Your skin will break out. Things will fall to bits for you. And you'll think, oh, this carnivore diet's terrible. This is not for me. No, it is for you. It's just that you did it wrong, is what we'll say. We'll use the famous vegan line that they like to use. You did it wrong. Okay, so if you still are eating significant amounts of plants, yes, get them out of your diet, but do it gradually, progressively. Those of you who just have a little bit left, next 7 days, get it gone. All of you, get subscribed to my channel, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, before we leave, can you once again share where can people connect with you and know your work?
Right. So obviously, it's the Odyssey channel is where my main business is now at in terms of my video material. So that's that address down there on your screen. Punch that in. It will take you there. It'll invite you to join the Odyssey system, the library system. If you're not already a user, please become a verified user. When you do that, they'll give you 15 library credits for free. Then you can use those 15 credits to tip your favorite creators like myself. That's how we make our living on the library system. It's rather than through advertising, it's through people watching our videos, which library will actually pay you to do. So that's the main place. My secondary hangout used to be the primary. It's now the secondary is my YouTube channel, which you'll find there. Just do a search on me. I also have a second YouTube channel, which is called The Meat Militia. And you'll also see some crazy character running around in military fatigues and a beret and stuff. And yeah, he's quite funny, that guy. I'd, get involved with some of that too, if you like that kind of humor. I have a page on Facebook, just called Nutrition Science Watchdog. You'll be able to find me there as well. Occasionally I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and other places like that. Oh, and I have a Discord server as well. So if you do a search on me on the Discord, you'll find me there. I think that's the main, where all the main action is at. There you go.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you so much, Bart, for coming to the show and helping us to become more healthy.
My absolute pleasure. As I say, thank you very much for the invite. I really do appreciate it. I hope many thousands of your subscribers will come and sub to me in a great, huge rush. That would be the best Christmas gift I think I've ever received. I congratulate you on the vast and rapid growth of your particular channel. I think that's fantastic. I support anybody out there who is involved in getting the truth to people about health and nutrition. I absolutely salute you for what you're doing. Thank you very much for having me, and I'd love to come back again sometime.
Thank you, Bart.
Subscribe to Preparedness Goku Great.